Okay, folks, thanks for joining. This short recording, hopefully 15-20 minutes, is going to cover the HR brass ring crash course that we hosted about a week ago now. Just to kind of get going right off the bat, we wanted to first review the workflow because I think there is still some confusion on who's doing what, because the talent acquisition recruiters have been posting all recs, but we are not necessarily recruiting for all recs. So we'll start there and clarify, and then we'll jump into a little bit of PFG compliance and brass ring live demo type stuff. So as you'll see on the workflow, we've seen this before. I have highlighted the 3 boxes that are most different in yellow. So the biggest differences are that currently, and for the foreseeable future, your talent acquisition recruiter is going to be the person responsible for opening your recs, whatever they may be. We do have to go through a process of making sure that they are mapped correctly to the PFG job codes. And there are some little nuances, very easy places to make mistakes. And of course, HR's plate is pretty full right now. So until we have a chance to better train you guys and you've got a little bit less going on, we will continue to open up the requisitions. From there, we're still going to host our weekly meetings and provide updates on our high volume positions, so your drivers and your warehouse. We're still going to be sourcing for those candidates through media platforms. We will still have access to the same mCloud vendors and whatnot that we had before. Hopefully that will be up in the next day or so. We are still going to continue to review candidate applications every 24 hours for drivers and for fleet mechanics, and 48 hours for warehouse. We will make 3 attempts to those candidates, same as before. We're going to conduct the phone screen. Instead of sending you an attached phone screen note, like to the calendar invite, as well as uploading it into Career Connect, we are going to use the phone screen tool that's inside of Brass Ring. So Brass Ring has the capability to populate a phone screen form while we're on the phone. It also gives us the capability to e-link or email that form to the hiring managers ahead of the interview. It saves a lot of time. It removes a couple of steps of what we're doing. So we're gonna use the system for what it lets us do. For qualified candidates, we're going to schedule them on site just like we always did. We're going to send you the calendar invite. We're going to e-link or email that phone screen form to you. You guys are, hiring managers are going to conduct the interviews. Of course, let us know how that goes, yay or nay. If they are a nay, they will provide release reasons back to the TA recruiter. We will release at that point. If it's a yay, they will hand that over to you guys in HR for the offer creation. That's another big difference within Brass Ring, is that we do go through the offer creation and actually create an offer form for all positions. Versus just doing the verbal and then having them maybe sign something in orientation. So that's a little bit different as well. Local HR will still upload interview notes. There is an attachments area, very easy to do. And then, of course, local HR will still handle and manage the background check drug screen process. So not a whole lot of differences as far as who does what. It's just the differences of how we get the phone screen notes to you and how we are creating offer forms. Again, we are still opening recs, so that's another big difference, just, again, taking that off of your plate. So let us know when you request a requisition. We need to know number one, the job description that you're intending to use from SharePoint. If you want to use a little bit of a different title, that's fine. You can let us know that. We need to know the shift. We need to know if it's an addition or a replacement. If it's a replacement, we need to know the name of who it's replacing. And we need to know if there's any nuances to the schedule. If it's part-time, there's a place for us to select the number of hours that they would be working. So those details are important when you're requesting that requisition. So from here, we're going to talk about the PFG compliance. We've got a slide coming up here in just a second for that. We'll jump into a live demo showing you a little bit of Brass Ring tips. We're going to go through what creating an offer looks like, and then we'll talk about disposition reasons. So PFG's compliance is pretty similar to what we were used to under the Ray's brothers. The differences are going to be kind of the volume in the rec and what happens. So recs, if you put up a rec today and you get 25 applicants tonight, the rec is going to automatically unpost. That is because PFG's compliance is that they want to keep 25 people or less in each requisition. So if it is a high volume area, maybe a warehouse position, we will have to keep a close eye on making sure that we open up a new one pretty quickly if it's needed. But the idea is, we should be finding a handful of folks out of that 25, ideally. And maybe there is no need to post another one. Technically speaking, if maybe 17 people apply tonight, and our recruiters are obviously very good at what we do, and we work them the very next day. So let's say that we move those 17 people either to phone screen or disposition, then technically speaking, the rec will stay posted, and it will allow 25 more applicants to come through, because the way that it is set up is to unpost when there's 25 in the applied status. So that means nobody's touched it, applied. Once you move them, it does open up additional spots for more applicants. However, it's one of those just because the system can do it doesn't mean we can sort of things. PFG's compliance is to still unpost the rec when we have 25 total applicants. Again, if there's a need for more, then we would just open a new rec. So we have to keep a close eye because we move candidates so quickly that obviously we're going to have instances that we might have 26, 27, 28. Let's just do the best we can to get it unposted at 25. Your recruiter is going to be your first line of defense for that. Per rec, we can only make 6 offers. And unlike Career Connect, Brass Ring will literally not let you make another offer. Used to, you could kind of still push it through. It might be a little glitchy, but you could do it. It's 6 and that's it. However, the workaround, so let's say out of your 25 folks, you want to offer 8. You would let your recruiter know who number 7 and number 8 is. We would open a new rec, and we do have the ability to move those 2 candidates from the old rec to the new rec so that you can make an offer. So they don't have to reapply. So that's the nice part of how you might have a workaround in that situation. Currently, only admins to Brass Ring have the ability to do that movement. So you would need to let me know or let your recruiter know, and they'll let me know. So I would need to know the old rec number, the new rec number, and their names, and we can move that pretty quickly. We can also move candidates from rec to rec as long as it is the exact same job. Same job title. It doesn't have to be the same location. So if you accidentally had a sales consultant maybe apply at your division city, but it's for a different territory, you can move it if it's a different city, but you can't if it's a different job title. So as long as it's the same job, we can move candidates from rec to rec. Again, that's an admin only ability, so just let me know. As far as gateway questionnaires is what Brass Ring calls it, what we would probably call auto-releasing. It's something that Career Connect could do, but we never utilized. So very unfamiliar, new territory for us here. So we have to be kind of careful. I have fought the good fight. These are not an option. We have to turn them on. We cannot turn them off to remain in compliance with PFG. What they are, it's a couple of questions. It's part of the actual application, which is why we can't turn it off. However, there are certain questions, if they answer one way or another, they could be auto-released. There are 2 different gateways that we are going to be using. One is no salary driver. The other is no salary external. So if you choose the driver, no salary, it's going to be looking for the answers to if they have a commercial license and if they're 21 or older. As long as they're age 21 or older and they have a commercial license, so they're going to answer A or B, then they will be in the requisition for review if it's a driver posting. If they do not, let's say that they haven't graduated school yet, they're working to obtain their license, they'll say no, and they will be auto dispositioned. They will get the release email. They will still be in the requisition, so you can still review them and potentially reach out and say, hi, I realize that you were not qualified just yet for this position. I just wanted to talk with you and see if a driver helper position or, get their graduation date and follow back up. We can still talk to them, but unfortunately there's no way around the auto release function. For the no salary external, so it would be, again, no salary driver for driver positions, no salary external. The external would be for anything else that doesn't require a CDL. So it would be your warehouse positions, your sales, marketing, anything and everything. It's going to ask, again, it's a part of the application, but the auto release questions are you at least 18 or older, and are you eligible to work in the U.S.? So those are things that have to be in place, for us to move forward anyways. So it shouldn't be a bad thing. We shouldn't be missing eligible candidates because, again, those things would have to be in place for us to move forward. So again, you can still see them in your requisition so that you can see if maybe it was a mistake. The big thing to pay attention to here is if we have the wrong gateway on the wrong job. So let's say that we accidentally click the no salary driver for a sales position. Well, those salespeople probably don't have their Class A, and they're all going to be auto dispositioned, auto released. So the way you would know is you would look at your rec, and you might have 6 people in there. As you look at your 6, all of them will be released for minimum qualifications not met. And that would be your big red flag that we probably have the wrong gateway set up. We can go in and edit that post, and we can put it on no salary external to correct the issue going forward. You can send me a note and say, hey, all 6 people need to be rolled back to applied. I will take care of that. But they have to be worked pretty quickly because my understanding from PFG is they will potentially be auto-released again if we don't do any kind of movement. So what I will do usually is go ahead and put them in application review for you so that it won't roll back, and then it gives you time to either call the candidate or disposition accordingly, whatever the situation. The bad part about it is they're going to get that email that says bye-bye, thanks but no thanks. We'll just have to, when we talk to them, apologize for the computer error, et cetera, for that warm, fuzzy feel. So we just have to be very careful that we choose the right one so that we're not dispositioning candidates for the wrong reasons. For no salary driver, those should really just be on your Class A, Class B, and shuttle positions. I would not necessarily turn it on for the associates because the associates don't have that driver experience to answer the rest of those driver questions anyways. And again, you might miss out on the ones that are graduating in a week or two if they answer no. So that's kind of my guidance there. So with that, we will go ahead and hop into Brass Ring and play around just a little bit. When you're signing in, depending on what your default settings are, you're either going to be looking at, your open recs, or you're going to be looking at one of these tabs up here. Your default settings, if you haven't changed anything, they're going to look like this. To each their own. Everyone has different brains. Mine can't function like that. So if you switch here, it will change you to more of a line view so that you can see everything a little cleaner, in my opinion. You probably have a few different tabs than what I have here, unless you've played with it. So the big one that you want to add and pay attention to is job location, because of course, we might have Shawano here has Green Bay. If you don't have job location added, then you won't know the difference between these two recs. So the way you do that is click your gear wheel up here. This is where you would move a field that you don't want over, or move one that you do want over here. So it's just, you've probably played with screens like this before, so it's pretty easy. A suggestion that I might make to you for the field would be to get rid of the new. It's up to you, but what I will say is new means new to you. So if I click on these 5 people and I make some sort of an HR status update like application review or phone screen, when I go back and I click on it, the people who I thought I was working on are going to be missing because they're no longer new to me. They're going to be in the total, but if you get used to going to the new column, you're probably going to be missing some folks, and it might cause some confusion. So you could get rid of that column entirely and just work off of the total line. I would probably do that if I were you. The reason we would keep it up as recruiters is it sometimes tells us really quickly which ones have applied since we were last in there. So for HR, again, to each their own, but I would probably get rid of that column. Posting options, if it's red or orange here, it means that it's posted. This would be, let's say that I went in here and all 6 of these people for Bev Chem have been released for minimum qualifications not met. I would click here and double check that it says no salary external. If it said no salary driver, obviously that's my problem. I need to change it. and then I need to send an email to me that says, hey, these 6 people need to be rolled back, please. Done. So just let me know. So that's just kind of a little bit about how this screen looks. If we want to go in and take a look at these 6, I'm going to show you the applicant screen. Same thing here. If you haven't played with this, you probably have more columns than what you really need. I think there's like, their employer and some crazy little columns that really aren't helpful, and they span across your whole screen to where you can't see everything. So if you take some of them away and maybe just keep it to where it's your name, the forms, the notes, the HR status, those are the important ones. And you can clean it up to a much smaller view here. So I can see that all of these have applied, which means they have not been reviewed yet. They haven't been moved to any sort of a stage. If I want to start taking a look, let's say I want to look at these 3 together, save some time here. I click on all 3. I can go to actions. I can go to speed browse. And I can see all 3 next to each other, which is pretty cool. This is really helpful for positions that you guys are going to be recruiting for, like sales and like this Bev Kim, because these people have resumes. If this is a driver or a warehouse, you're probably not going to have anything here because this is based on them attaching a resume, and most of those folks don't. So if they've got a resume, you can kind of view them side by side. If you decide that, yeah, Michael looks good and, Russell looks good, I can actually send them via e-link to the hiring manager and say, hey, what do you think about these 2? Do you want to interview? What's your interview availability? And I can do it that way. Again, you just figure out your own interview process there, but you can do it literally from the screen. You would send an e-link. You would send it to your hiring manager. I'm going to pick on Molly. You can send it to more than one person as well. For forms to complete, you want to be really careful. I would never probably use this for most cases. If you ever send anyone like an offer letter to approve or phone screen notes and you put it in forms to complete, that would actually allow them to make alterations and it would appear under your name, which is a little scary. So I would not let folks edit things that I'm sending. Make sure you go to forms to view. For forms to view, you're not usually going to send like the disability stuff. You're going to send the gateway job response. And what that's going to do is give them the job application. So you'd click all 3 there, I believe, and do that for each candidate. That's Michael Graham. For Russell, gateway job response. That's going to send them the resume and the job experience. So when you send it, there's going to be an email that comes from Brass Ring to Molly, and it's going to have 2 names as hyperlinks. It's going to have Michael Graham, a blue clickable hyperlink, and then Russell here. Once she clicks it, she would go to forms and she can see the things that you've attached for her to see, and she could do that review. So it makes it a little easier. The other way that you could do it would be, let's say you've made your review and you've narrowed it down. Let's say we disposition these 3 and we're down to these 3. We could put them to application. We could put them to hiring manager review, which would put them into a stage that Molly could sign in to Brass Ring and see them for herself. If they're in applied and Molly signs in as a hiring manager, she cannot see any of these people. She can't see them until you move them to at least first application reviewed and then hiring manager review or beyond. So it has to be one of these here. It either needs to be in this status, phone screen, or first interview. I believe I'm not sure if they can see dispositioned candidates or not. I actually haven't tested that out, but they can see these 3 for sure. So if you don't want to e-link them, you could just put them in hiring manager review and shoot over a note to Molly that says, hey, Molly, sign in. I need you to check out the 3 and let me know which one you want me to call. To each their own, however you want to do it. I'm going to go ahead and roll him back while I'm in here. This is something that admins only can do right now. So again, if you have a disposition reversal that you need, make sure that you let me know. All 3 were checked. I didn't notice that. That is something you got to pay attention to. If you have all 3 checked and you change a status on one, it'll change all 3. So be careful about checking your boxes over there. So that's a little bit about how that screen would work. If you're in just one particular candidate, you're going to see a little bit of the overview here. If they have a resume, again, drivers in warehouse, a lot of times this is going to be blank, but he does have one. You're going to be able to read through what was entered here. If it parsed correctly, you would see, first of all, a cover letter if there was one. And this one did not parse correctly, but you might be able to see just experience or just education if it parsed correctly. But again, it's all going to be here on this screen. For any position or any person who doesn't attach a resume, this is going to be blank, and you're going to be thinking that they didn't provide you their job experience. If you click job response down here, you would start to see the rest, their actual responses to the application itself. So for like a driver or a warehouse, a lot of times this entire box is missing. The first thing that you'll see is this, the current employee. So this is going to be where the application starts. So literally on the website, this is what he answered. How did you hear about PFG? Internet job posting, Indeed. You're going to see the contact information, employer number 1, position title, responsibilities, employer number 2. This would be how you're checking the job experience of your drivers in warehouse in most cases. You can come on down and see how they answered. You won't see the male and white, the race, because that's an admin view, but you'll see that at least 18 years or older, eligible to work in the U.S. You'll see some of that stuff. So that would be where you check their job experience for anyone who doesn't attach a resume. Action log is not super pretty, I'll be the first person to admit, but it is how you can see things that have happened in the past. So if he's applied before, you would see multiple pages down here at the bottom. You would see what date he applied, and then over to the right, you would see what position and what rec number he had applied for. This won't be a great example because he's not been dispositioned yet, but had he been dispositioned, there would be a form added on the day he was dispositioned, and it would say disposition form. It would be blue. You could click on it and it would tell you the reason he was dispositioned. So you can easily tell if there's a situation that you need to proceed with caution. Forms is going to be the collection of any forms that have happened. Again, these are all just kind of the automated application forms. There would be a disposition form if he was dispositioned, or an offer creation form if he had been offered, and you can see all of those things. Those things are all blue with hyperlinks. Attachments is where you're going to go to attach your interview notes from on-site interviews. It's real quick, just very simple, user-friendly add. You can add multiple attachments at one time, which is nice. Notes would be any kind of notations that, same as Career Connect. If you're making any kind of notes, or if your recruiter has made notes about contact attempts, those are going to be in here. HR status just shows you a review of what statuses people were in and what happened. So you can see that there was some reversals, and I've used him before as an example. Communication, there's going to be some of the automatic emails captured here, as well as other, like if you do any kind of ad hoc, like candidate emails, they would be logged here as well. E-link is just another place for you to, it would show you records of e-links that you've sent out if you've done that with your hiring manager. So not really a whole lot else to do here. If you can disposition from the screen, usually you just go to the applied status here, you would click on it and you could change it. But you could also disposition from the other screen that we were in. So from here, there's a couple of places that you can do everything from. And maybe I should use someone else, but I guess we'll just keep using him as an example. Let's go ahead and talk about how to create an offer letter. Let's just go straight for the first interview and then offer creation. So from this screen, when you do offer creation and you click submit, it should bring up the actual form for you to fill out. So you would be able to put in a pay rate. If he's going to be a salesperson, it's going to be 0. If it's anything else, salary or hourly, you're going to put that rate in here. You're going to calculate the hourly rate. You're just going to kind of fill out what it's asking for here. It'll ask if the warehouse person is eligible for a differential. Is it bonus eligible? If you have any specific benefits, you can type them in here. Everything from this form is going to flow over to the offer form. Proposed start date for PTO, it's Reinhardt standard down here at the bottom. COBRA reimbursement, sign-on bonus. If we said yes, it would have us type in the details with it. relocation, modus, company phone, office supplies. You've got all your questions here. Your recruiter is either going to be yourself or your TA, professional, either one, depending on the position, title and phone number. You can even just do you on all of them if you want. We don't have to be on there. The manager is going to be the person that they report to. So this is going to pre-fill from the rec. The rec supervisor should pre-fill down here to the manager. Offer date. The approver has to be the highest ranking person in the department. So if it's a VP of sales, VP of procurement, VPO, whatever the situation. However, if it is also their direct supervisor, then you need to go one level up. So let's say it's an RSM. Their direct supervisor is the VP of sales. So you would go above them and probably do your division president. You need to go at least one level above their direct report. It's a compliance thing with PFG. And at some point, I'm sure that there's going to be some audit practices that kind of go into this. So just be careful that you're either choosing the highest ranking person in the department. So if it's a driver, it's probably a director of trans, maybe a VPO. Or if it's sales, it's going to be VP of sales. But again, if that person is their direct report, it needs to go one level up. So just be careful about that. Let me know if you have any questions. You only need one approver. If you like having two, so let's say you want to send it to, if it's like maybe you're an HR support person, like Ali Grundy or someone, maybe you would send it to your HR manager first, and then the highest ranking, that's fine. But ultimately the highest ranking person is the one who signs off. Notify upon approval completion. You don't have to do anything here. It's not required. But if you want to know when it's been approved, then you would type in your specific name, here. And it would let me know when it's been approved. So I'm going to cancel out of this because it's not real. I'm going to go ahead and move him back for the third time. Probably need to make a note in there that this is training. People are going to be really confused. And you can add a note from this screen. Back at type. That way it's in there. Let's say that I've already created the offer form and it's been approved, or you already know, you've already verbally talked to, whoever the approver is, and you know that you're going to be able to move forward. Then we can click on Atom here. We can create a document. Sorry. I didn't think it was going to pre-fill here. So we've got a lot of different offer letters here. We've got, depending on the situation, you've got hourly, salary, sales, depending on, what you're doing. I'm going to click on salary just because it's a little more straightforward. The first thing I would do is preview it. Makes it a little bit bigger so I can see what is pulling over. Contact information is going to be pulling over from the application. I'm going to show you in just a second where you can edit that so that it's fixed. Everything that, we entered in the creation form is going to fill in here. It's blank because of course we left it blank, but it would be based on what we entered on the offer creation form. So you would just make sure that it came over okay and that everything looks right. If there's something that you need to change verbiage wise or something that's a little more specific to this particular offer, you can edit everything here. I don't mess with the hashtags up here. Again, those things are pre-filling from the application and from the offer creation. But let's say that you need to reword something in here about PTO or, you can do so here and let me know if you're having trouble with that. Once you create it, you're going to click Save as PDF. I'm not going to do this because it will save this blank one. Once you save it as PDF, there's going to be an option that says Post to Candidate Zone. What that does is puts the offer letter over into your candidate's PFG career site account. So the account that they created to apply is their candidate zone. When you post it there, it's also going to ask you if you want to notify the candidate. And you do, because if you don't send that email, they won't have any idea that the offer letter is there. So make sure that you send them that email, and that's going to send it out for them to see and review. It also lets them e-sign it. So when they e-sign it, it's going to automatically put that candidate into written offer accepted as far as the HR status. And that's going to trigger, the next couple of steps. So the reason I call that out is because as soon as you create this offer form, as soon as you save it, and as soon as you post it to the candidate zone, as soon as you finish everything, you're going to want to move Adam to verbal offer accepted, as long as that's, of course, the case. You can't see it right now because he's not in the appropriate status, but if he's in offer creation, there's going to be a verbal offer accepted choice there. The reason that you want to go ahead and move him is because let's just say Adam is on it, and he's on his computer and he is ready to go, and he signs that thing before you get a chance to move him to verbal offer accepted. Verbal offer accepted is where the higher right pop-up is for background checks and drug screens. So you just want to make sure that you get him moved to verbal offer accepted before he has a chance to e-sign the offer letter. So you can go through your higher right pop-ups, the WOTC questionnaire, all those things will start going at that point. And then when he signs it, it will put him into written offer accepted. And then you guys can start trucking through, waiting for background check and drug screen, and then working them through onboarding and your final checklist. So those are some of the little point outs that I would say there. Trying to think if there's been any major questions regarding that. If let's say that you create your offer and then Adam is negotiating and you need to edit it, it's not going to be here because I haven't saved it. But if you go into forms, you're going to see that offer creation and you're going to be able to edit it. And then you would just resend for approval. So you don't have to create a new one. So everything that you need is usually in here somewhere. You just got to get used to the system. It's a little bit different. It is pretty intuitive, so that's nice. As far as offers and beyond, I'm not the best person to probably host that training, and not until I get a little bit better with that myself. We've never been in charge of onboarding or any of that stuff before, so we're not super knowledgeable still. But what I will do is potentially try to get maybe Emmy, because I'm in Knoxville. If she's got an example, I'll try to sit down with her and maybe record one of these that goes offer and beyond. But just wanted you guys to kind of get a feel for this layout, where things are. And this will hopefully help maybe even with new HR hires in the future. So wanted to show you guys some of that. We'll go back into presentation mode here. The last thing that I was really going to cover was disposition reasons. These are a little bit different than what we had in Career Connect. So brass ring's a little different. Depending on the stage that the candidate is in, you've got different options for where they can go next. And you've probably already seen that if you've played with it at all. So if the candidate is still in applied status and you go to disposition, then you're going to disposition under the stage application never considered because you never opened it. And you've got a couple of choices. You've got position filled internally. It was just closed and not filled. Position already filled, offered to another applicant. Those are going to be your most common uses there. If you do move it to reviewed, whether or not you called them or not, then you've got your middle choices here. So maybe you can tell pretty quickly that, they don't meet basic qualifications. Did not meet preferred. Please be very careful with that. Really hiring practices are based off of basic qualifications, and that's how the resumes are worded. They only have to have the basic qualifications. So be very, very careful when you say doesn't have preferred. That would be, let's say that you've considered, the applicants in the requisition, and maybe 2 or 3 do have the preferred, then you would be able to, refer back and say, moving forward with, another candidate in the requisition based on experience with dollies or experience with delivery, or, whatever that preferred qualification is. Apologize. So you've still got salary requirements are too high. You've still got former eligible or former employee not eligible. We can disposition for this, even if it's a Reinhardt employee that we know was not eligible. The system, Brass Ring, is not going to pick up on that because they're just checking for PFG employees. But if we know that we have that habitual person that reapplies every time we repost and they're not eligible, we can still do that and just make a notation that they were not eligible under Reinhardt. That's fine. So you guys can kind of see your options there. Once they've been on site for an interview, you've got more options or you've got different choices. You've got unsatisfactory interview, which is another one that I want you guys to be very, very careful with. It would be kind of our way of using other, but you do need to be very specific on your comment. We don't want to run into situations with, audits and fines and fees and things like that. So let's just keep doing the things that we were doing in the past. Let's shy away from other anytime that we can. If we really do need to do unsatisfactory interview, it needs to be things like candidate was not able to answer questions without leading, or, candidate used profanity, or candidate revealed that there was a physical altercation with his manager. There needs to be specific things that can hold up, right? So we don't want to just say, we just didn't like them, or their hair was red, whatever the situation is. Let's be very, very careful. Let's do what we do best and dot our I's and cross our T's on disposition reasons. With that, that's all that I really covered on the call. Again, we will try to maybe do one of these offer and beyond if I can get someone to volunteer to help me with that. If you have questions on brass ring, anything and everything, first send it to myself and or your HRD. Chances are one of us can do what you need to do before sending it to HRIS. We did have one day, it was a couple of days ago this week, that HRIS forwarded me the emails that you guys were sending in, because again, we can handle it on our side. It is a great team over there. It's a team of 6, I believe. They've been very responsive and very helpful, but they also have other things on their plate. So if we can do it, we need to do it before we ask them. If someone's been locked out of brass ring or needs access, unfortunately, that is usually HRIS, but I still ask you to filter it through me first, because there is some troubleshooting that we can do. If it's adding a city, that's an HRIS request, but most everything else we can do. We can reverse dispositions, we can move candidates from rec to rec, we can add people to rec teams. Like I said, most everything we can do. So please just filter it through me first. If not me, I will direct you to who. So if it's an HRD or HRIS, or Kristen even with PFG. So with that, I'll go ahead and let you guys go for this one. I think it might have gone a little bit longer than I intended, but this should hopefully be helpful for anyone who's newer to brass ring. Let me know if you have any questions, and just look out for future recordings. Thanks, guys.